Start? All right, let's do it. Okay, call to order the Parks and Recreation Board meeting on October 14, 2024 at 6 p.m. All those who are able, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Lori, can you get the roll call?
Yes, thank you. Chair Gaynor,
Here.
Vice Chair King,
Here.
Patty Burns,
Here.
Joanna Para.
Here.
Sherry Simmons is excused, Dawn Weber,
Here.
and Matt Lyman is excused this evening, and your ex officio tonight is Counselor Trista Pinkman. Present. Thank you.
Perfect. Good to see you. All right, are there any corrections or changes to the minutes from September 9th? Anything at all? No? Okay. All right. If there's not, then can I get a motion to approve the minutes from September 9th?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right. Minutes are approved. Lori, did you receive any public comments prior to the meeting?
I did not.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to make a public comment? No? Is there anyone on Zoom?
Nope, it's just us.
Perfect. All right, well, let's jump right away into our North Plains Parks Foundation. Would you like to come up and address the board here?
Good evening, directors. I'm Cindy Hurst. Do I need to state my,
No,
okay, thank you. I'm board secretary for the North Plains Parks Foundation.
And I'm the acting president, vice president, acting and vice president, or as president at the present time.
I had sent,
Okay, sorry.
I had sent an email saying there were 3 items that the Parks Foundation would like to bring to your attention so that we can move forward. The first thing is we would like to do, we would like to move forward with getting donations for the kitchen. The first thing that we had talked about was doing a direct mail piece to residents here in town. I don't know how many of you have done fundraising before, but it's very important that you be very personable, be very direct. And so a direct mail piece with a letter, absolutely having somebody's name on it is really important. And that would be the first step that we want to take in raising funds. For some reason, and I don't know the reason, the city's not able to give the Parks Foundation the list of water billing addresses, people and addresses. We thought that would be the easiest way to contact residents here in town. So it was discussed, I guess, that if this board and our board partnered in a letter, it would be, we would be able to use the mailing address for the water bills. And so that's the first thing that I want to ask is if you would feel comfortable having your, Parks and Rec Board logo on there, and then also with a signature at the bottom from the Parks and Rec Board and the Parks Foundation as a direct appeal letter. And before the letter would go out, of course, everybody would have an opportunity to take a look at it so that you feel comfortable with it. So that's my first question to you. Would you feel comfortable doing that?
Are we allowed to, try to raise money as a city organization?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the city can do that if they want.
Yes,
We can-
well, yes, city can do that. It's a city function. But the money is coming through the Parks Foundation so people can have a tax write-off.
Okay,
That's the reason. They could give money directly to the city, but no advantage to them tax-wise. The foundation was set up several years ago do that for, the average person. Businesses usually, do donations as a business expense. So it's not as important for them to be giving to a 501c3. But as individuals, if I want to donate and get a tax deduction, it has to be to a 501c3. It couldn't be to the city. So that's the reason for the Parks Foundation.
Patty, I know this is one of.
Yes, I think so. Yes, our name should be on it. Absolutely.
Evan, thoughts?
I see no problem with this whatsoever.
Okay.
Well, we have $35,000 to raise. And it's not gonna be easy, but we'll get on it. But that was the first thing that we wanted to do. And then, of course, there will be some other things that we're going to do. But the direct mail piece is number one, to ask for the money, but also raise awareness in the community that this is going to be done and that we need their help. So it's going to be, the letter will be in a way so that people understand that groups can't come in here and use the kitchen because of the way the kitchen is now. So we will explain all of that in the letter, give them an idea of what's gonna happen, so on. Okay, so you will all get an opportunity to read it and have some input with the letter. Okay. Then the other items, the Parks Foundation will be meeting probably later this month, now that we've been here, and talking about other things that we're gonna do. So we will let you know, keep you apprised of everything that's going on. Questions about that particular issue? Okay. The Veterans Memorial Park. One of the things that Andy Barner had asked us to do a couple years ago is to solicit funds for the maintenance of the flag and any other maintenance items needed for the park. And we want to do that, but we just need some information. Dustin has provided me with some. What we're going to probably do is some type of a brochure that'll be available at the park. We'll work it out, however that needs to be. But that way people can feel comfortable giving something maybe once a year and keep the flag flying as it is. Okay.
Also, replacement, funds for replacement.
Right, funds for replacement of the flag.
Is it very expensive, the flag?
It's about $2,500 for one of those large flags, and it only goes up each year. But the good news with that is that it's pretty much a lifetime warranty. So any of the frays or anything, we could, put it on a regular maintenance cycle and just kind of switch out flags. But even then, flags wear out and they fade over time. And so being able to have at least, I suggested a $2,500 reserve fund to go into the purchase of a flag in case of an emergency like that, would be, probably sufficient in this case. If we have more, that's great, but I think $2,500 would be a good baseline.
And we also already had $500 donated this year for the flag maintenance. There's a specific fund, I think, that Bill Reed had set up so that it will show in the budget and be used specifically for that. But it's not just for the flag maintenance, it's also for the park. So it can be used for flowers or whatever kind of maintenance needs to be done at the park.
The Veterans Day thing is very well done, and I wonder if that could be just connected to once a year pitch.
Oh,
I feel
absolutely.
like when we come, there could be a donation jar, I could give my 10 or 20 bucks there, or go online and get something.
Yeah.
I use that as the main way,
We can do
because
that.
that's a nice event, there's a good turnout at it.
Yeah, that's a good
And
suggestion.
visual, you're looking at the flag, you're looking at the.
I will put that into the script, to make sure that it happens. At Memorial Day, I had slipped in a quarter page, piece of information about flag maintenance into the program, and we'll do that again this year. So just so you know that that's going to be happening, so you're not surprised if you see something out there about that.
question for you, sorry to interrupt before we move on to the next one. Is there like a QR code or a way for people to donate online to that?
Yes, well, there isn't at the moment.
Okay,
We're going to do that, and that's something I need to talk with the communications person at the city.
okay,
Because right now the QR code is strictly for, purchasing a brick.
okay,
And we need to do brick as well as flag maintenance.
Okay.
So there needs to be two things happening.
okay. No, fair. I just asked, I know there's a lot of veterans in the Bryn Hill neighborhood, I think would have passion towards donating to something like this.
Mhm. And there will be something there, there's a bulletin board, I didn't know if you knew that, there's a bulletin board at the Veterans Park, and there will be something there, there already is. But it will be more developed with the QR code and so forth, that people can donate when people visit,
Okay, perfect.
okay? My other thought is that these flyers that we do up will also be there, people can open the lid and take out a flyer, so.
Okay.
I think that's important, to keep the awareness happening. And the last thing is about the trees around Jessie Mays Park, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff going around, oh, we don't want the trees to be cut down and so forth. Well, years ago, Stuart, I believe, the foundation, when they were working on the park around here, the foundation board members said, well, if they're gonna plant trees, why don't we sell the trees and have a dedication on it, and that way it can pay for the trees. The other thing I heard at Garlic Festival is, well, if they're gonna cut down the trees, are they gonna put in just this little teeny tiny sapling? And we don't have any shade around here. So I just wanna, let you know that we're willing to do something along that line for the trees, however many trees there are. And maybe something a little bit bigger than a little sapling, you know, something, I don't wanna say big trees today, which is the firm that's south of Hillsborough, but something a little bit more substantial so that people can really see them right away. I don't know how many of you have noticed around the library that there are some of the trees that have markers there. When the library was built, I should say several years, many years before the library was built, there were trees, dedicated trees along 313th. And all of those had to be taken down because of the library. So when we did the library, we put those trees back for those who had already paid and dedicated, and then sold a few more with the proceeds going to the library. So that's kind of the idea, the same type of idea is having just a little plaque down there donated, so on. Most of the people who are on those plaques are now passed. You know, it's a nice thing for the community to have. So I want you to think about that. We're then willing to do that, but we need to do it well in advance of when you're going to be ordering trees or whatever. So we just need the advance notice that you're going to be doing that. I don't know what the timeline is, but I see the drawing. And Dustin had responded to me that, you know, maybe a mix of trees or whatever, but whatever's decided, we want to sell those so that we can raise some funds.
Who's gonna choose the trees? Do we have certain ones we're going to use so that they don't break up sidewalks and?
So this is a greater picture. The thing that we're going to be doing is possibly opening up 3 or 4 designs to the community as a whole. And so one of the things I've solicited from our engineering consultant is, let's come up with some designs that would be, you know, something that would be feasible, and whether we have the small trees or the larger trees. Another consideration we have is we have power lines and the cables around here. And that also might be something you're considering with the project is, you know, are we going to bury all these cables? But then that kind of extends our project timeline on top of that. But that will also be, you know, allow us to put whatever trees we want kind of outside of the right of way. But the plan is right now is to put the sidewalk curb tight And so we can put the trees on the other side and we should have not too many problems with the trees once we do it that way. But as far as the design goes, I have pretty much requested, let's do a few different designs and maybe we can get, not just with the board, but go out to the community Facebook page or even interim director or interim city manager Rob Drake suggested, let's go to the schools and let's see what the kids have to say about a design. And so one of the things that I talked with is, hey, let's get not just an overhead view of, you see like blobs on a blueprint. Do we have like a 3D design of what these trees look like when they're kind of grown up a little bit? So we might have a little bit of a better idea of, hey, what do we really want around this community? And hopefully that will, bring the community together a little bit. It's, hey, let's beautify the park and do it in a way that will not hurt the infrastructure that we're putting in as well. Hopefully that answered your question.
Was it's precipitated, sidewalks gonna go all the way around? Jeff?
Yeah.
Is that what the cause is for removing?
So that's why the trees, some of the
No,
conversations happening.
The greater project is actually between stormwater, like there's a lot of storm drainage and we're doing some water line upgrades. And with that, the trees have to go anyway. And if you have noticed along, especially on this east side, there's a lot of dying or diseased trees and trees that have fallen down, after windstorms. And we've like, you look, we had to cut some of those down. And so there's still a couple others that are starting to show the wear and tear. And so, we're gonna cut them down with the project. Newer trees that are a little bit healthier.
But is there also a plan to put sidewalks on all four sides?
Yes,
And does that happen first and then we add the trees in, or how's the?
well, there's a lot of other things that we have to consider, is like that there's the power lines, there's also the electrical conduit that goes around for everything that supplies electricity for the Garlic Festival. There's our storm drainage that we have to worry about, and so we're basically gonna put in the curb and the gutter and all the storm system first, and then we'll put in the trees after, and after we do that, then we have to do our irrigation upgrades as well. So there's a lot of pieces going into this puzzle.
Cause that would be a good discussion when we get to it, cause I don't know, we haven't seen a map yet, have we?
It's been online for a while. We've got a 60% plan that's been on the webpage, and I've been trying to update, city projects as much as possible. So if you go to northplains.gov and you go through the public works side, you'll see, I think there's even a direct link to public projects and kind of like that top bar. And you can go down, you can see what public projects are coming. There's nothing that is a surprise or anything. It's been on there probably for a good year right now. So none of this is
Or
new.
longer. I mean, we talked about this when we talked about the big remodel of this building, so.
Yes, I put them up a long time ago just to give people an advance notice. And I even had originally seen like a petition, almost immediately when I put it up, to keep the trees. And I think the big miscommunication that's going on is this is not a sidewalk project. We're not just putting in sidewalk to put in sidewalk. There is, there's a drainage situation and it goes all the way down 311th right here and it crosses the railroad. And so it's a bigger picture project and not just sidewalk. And so it's something that we have to replace the trees anyway. We're not gonna just willy-nilly tear things out.
Great.
Anything else that you plan to do for the park, put in the park? Let's fundraise for it. I mean, if you put in benches, if all of those kind of fixtures, we can raise money for it. Or think about it. How can we pay for this? Let's see what we can do. People like to have their name on things, so we've got a bench out there with a name or something, we can do that. We just need to know about it in advance, so, when you have the plan in place, we can sell trees a year in advance if we need to. But that raises awareness, and also people like to see the progress of what's happening. Okay, so I'm raising your awareness as well, to think about all of those things, when you think about parks, what can we do to raise funds? Because that's what the Parks Foundation is for. That's the main purpose.
Perfect, thank you. No, and I know it's, for us, we've explored short-term goals, some long-term goals, and even new playground equipment, kind of around the city and trying to revamp things there to then even some perhaps bigger projects. So I think for us, I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the group, but I think starting with the kitchen and kind of just seeing our responses and kind of how things look, and then from there, okay, what worked well, what didn't, and looking at some of these other projects as well. But I think, yeah, signage, benches, new playground equipment, things like that will be.
And even with chili cook-off,
Mhm.
we can have something maybe at the door and say, funds for remodeling the kitchen, and people can put money in there, so,
Show them.
yeah. So any kind of event that we have here, I mean, there's an opportunity.
Sure.
People throw in $5, a lot of $5 can come in handy later on. So Stuart and I are gonna put on our chamber hat here for a minute. You're talking about an overhead view of the park. And we are getting ready next week to have drone footage taken of the city. So we can ask our videographer to take an extra round around the park, just so that you have a vision of what it's like, if that's what you would like.
You're doing a drone of the whole city?
Mostly businesses, I mean, it's for the chamber, but,
You have to, it came up in my neighborhood that the legalities of it, are there any issues that have to
No.
be checked on? You can fly drones?
our pilot is certified. Our pilot is certified, FAA certified and
No,
so.
but I mean, are you allowed to fly over the homes, and how do you control?
Yes, he is certified to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not certified, I have a license too, but I can't fly with people, he does.
He has the certification through the FAA and, is. when
I'm not
you-
worried about him. What I'm worried about is I was surprised there was a lot of not positive when it was being done in the neighborhood, and we realized you have to let people know that the drone is there for specific purposes. It's not shooting a picture of your house, it's doing businesses.
No,
I mean, pardon?
we don't have to do any of that.
A drone?
It's going to be high enough that it's not going to be, a specific home, for example. It'll be high enough, and again, he's certified to do this at a certain level. I don't know what that elevation is. But like, he'll be going around the school and that type of thing. So it's not that they're, focusing on any particular individual. But if you take a look at a lot of the videos for homes for sale, there's a lot of those particular drone videos in the neighborhoods around the home that's for sale. So, and those are done by, again, FAA certified with a Part 17 waiver, I think is the name of it, but, they have that. And they also coordinate with, they have to notify not only the Sunset Airstrip, but also Hillsborough Airport and, the glider port. They have to let them know that they're operating in the area. So, but this is mostly for business, and our attractions are on the area. It's not like they're gonna be going down the street in the neighborhoods. But we can have them do just a little bit extra around the park, and then you can use it as you need. Okay. So would you like, for example, the drone to stop and that way still photos can be taken from the video?
It's possible. I mean, this is the first time hearing of this, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe be like a before and after type of thing where we do a loop around, hey, this is what it looked like before, and then after, this is what it is now.
Okay. I'll talk to the videographer and I'll just ask him, tell him this is what we'd like to see, and he'll do whatever we need to do. So, okay. All right.
Dustin, when these new trees are planted, are they just out here on this side, or are we doing around, all the way around the park?
Once again, it goes back to what are we going to do with the existing lines? Because I do not want to plant trees underneath existing lines if they're gonna be, come back later and chop them off. I mean, even then, there's specific trees that we can plant. But if we can get with a capital project like this, a lot of times we can just go ahead and tell the utility, go ahead and bury it underground, but that just puts a longer timeline on the project more than anything. But as far as putting trees around the entire perimeter, that could be something that, you know, is part of the greater plan, because, you know, we might add a few trees over
They did
here.
go over, all the way over, didn't they, to
Mhm.
when they were
They did.
originally planted?
Mary Lou Foltz, I'll tell you, Councilor Mary Lou Foltz back in 90 or 91, had 100 of those cherry trees donated to the city. And they were planted, and she planted a great number of them herself. So a lot of them are gone now, but that's 30 years ago. So anyway,
So they're cherry trees?
they were cherry trees. I thought they were flowering cherry trees, but they weren't. So,
I saw somebody call them a plum cherry the other day.
yeah, they were all the same. They were all the same. There's some out on Glencoe. I can't remember now where they were all planted, but yeah, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, we'll look at different designs and, you know, do we want the big, you know, Douglas firs, or do we want a mixture of, like one of the suggestions is like, okay, take a look at, let's say, the city of Banks in their Greenville Park, you know, it's just a mixture of different kinds of trees. Or if you look at the new Public Works facility, they've got a mixture of trees at the Public Works facility. So maybe just something, a little bit of variety potentially, instead of maybe something that's susceptible to disease, you know, just kind of keep things mixed up a little bit. So there's a lot of things that we can do, and we can even have requests like, hey, you know, this design looks nice, but can we do something a little bit extra? But one of the good things about being able to do that as part of a greater project is that we can get a contractor in and do it for very cheap. And so with that, we can at least have a baseline of, hey, we can install these, you know, trees that are all between 5 and 8 years old or whatever. You know, have like a certain caliber, 3-inch caliber or something like that. Or with donations, we can upgrade some of those trees, or at least be able to, you know, get reimbursed for the cost of some of these trees. Because if we were to do this as a separate project all on its own, that would significantly raise the prices.
Right.
And so this is a good time to just go ahead and do it. Even if we get the donations in afterwards, that would still make a world of difference.
So, and then lastly, the Veterans Day Remembrance is November 11th. That's a park. I've requested a flyover again. Hopefully they'll come through. It had to do with the traffic at Hillsborough Airport. It's the reason why they didn't come over Memorial Day. So, they owe us one. Take place then. Any questions about the Parks Foundation? We did have one, actually now we have 2 openings. She and her family are moving out of the city. And so her chair is now going to be vacant. So we have 2 positions open. If you know of somebody who would like to be on the board, let us know.
Perfect. Any questions?
No. Good.
We're good. Okay.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Yeah, thank you for your time, for both of you being here. Appreciate it, thank you. All right, so moving on, I know that, we've just been aware that we're to move on from the Bryn Hills, presentation. They're gonna be meeting with the city, here, we've been called to do that, so hopefully they can circle back maybe in a month or so. And,
Yeah.
kind of go from there and see what happens, so. We'll keep you tabled. I do have some information I can send the city as well, as far as our surveys and what came back that way. And we can hopefully keep everybody involved that was involved and gave their time and effort to do that, so.
What's the timeline when a decision is needed?
There's no timeline on it at this time. Really, it's pretty open. I mean, they were gonna come and present what their ideas are for phase 5 parks, and, you know, when they do that, then there's feedback from you guys, and it kind of goes back and forth for a couple months. Well, in this case, it should have always been going to the city first to make sure that they're keeping up with the original master plan before it comes before you guys, and that hasn't been happening. So it's back on track now to where anytime they have a presentation, it comes to staff first review it and make sure it meets what they presented, basically, the broad overview in the master plan, and then it can come before you guys after that.
We're talking 4 and 5, right?
4 and 5, I can't
I
remember.
think it's mostly 5.
It's, yeah,
4 is pretty much done, I think, at this point, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
I think they've already hit ground.
But I think that'll be probably on the discussion, on the table for discussion at the same meeting, just to
Sure.
make sure that it was, like I said, it covered in the broad master plan.
So there's part 4 has already been approved for them to get going on?
That was
Or
approved
I'd have-
last year, wasn't it?
I thought
Something like that, I guess,
4 and
before,
5 together.
before me,
Pardon?
I think.
I think they submitted to Steve and Steve had reviewed it, and I do not know what the status of the review is right now, but I think that it was good to go.
Were we always talking about 4 and 5? I guess I'm confused.
The 4, they submit them separately. 4 has already been.
Right, but when
submitted.
we would meet, we were looking at 4 and 5 together. That's what we've been
Well,
doing every time.
Yeah, at this point, it's kind of moot, because whatever they present in front of staff will be, whether it's 4 to review and 5 to actually see for the first time, or 4 to, I don't know, for the city to see for the first time, it's up to city staff. I don't know exactly what they're gonna be presenting. That will be discussed between Lennar and Pacific Community Designs and Steve and the city manager and who else? You,
Dustin's there.
Yeah.
But Lennar has basically submitted phase 4 to Steve for review, and I have to go back and look at what the process is, but that was based off of the comments that we gave originally. It was, I don't know how many months ago it was,
Right.
but 4, there was no real issue with. But 5 was never submitted officially, and this is where they keep on going back into the design process. And that what they want to kind of talk to us again, because it still has to kind of go in the development code that was put forth, and we're going back and forth. But 4, I think, is already good to go. 5, we've got to finalize.
Well, could we get then, just to make sure everybody's on the wavelength, it'd be good to send out to us what the final number 4 is. Because I don't know if I've ever seen that. And maybe that's what we talked about, but I don't think that's ever been given back to us, this is the number 4 park.
It's pretty much what we had discussed as a group earlier when they had presented it. They submitted based off of that to Steve, so there wasn't a whole lot of change. I think there was maybe very, very minor changes to 4.
Yeah, so that, just have that go to us, that would be fine. I presume it's all fine, but just. So we're all on the same wavelength.
well, like I said, I think it'll go before staff along with 5 right now, because that's part's been being skipped for the last probably since before COVID, honestly. But so I think they will review 4 at the same time. Staff.
And then it will come to us for our sign off.
We need to review the process. I mean, you guys don't really, you make a recommendation to city council is what you do. You don't really sign off on anything. You say, hey, this is what they presented this is what we
Right.
agreed to. And you just kind of hand it over to city council, and they look at the originals, they look at the master plan, they look at what you guys are considering, what you guys are presenting to them as your recommendation, and then they make their decision. And sometimes it's what you give them and sometimes it's not.
But what you're saying is the process is supposed to go to staff, then it comes to us.
And actually, I believe then it might have to even go before planning commission. Is what Steve said, so.
The park has,
Well, I mean, honestly, we have to make sure that the space is used correctly and that it's, planning does have a say in it, that this is what it's used for. If it's green space and they decide they want to put, brick wall with where you can play tennis against it or whatever, that might not meet code. I don't know, but it has gone before a planning commission in the past, maybe not when you were on the board, but it goes, now it's gonna go staff, parks, planning to council.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That was just discussed this morning at our morning meeting, so.
Perfect. Then we'll plan on waiting for more notice and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
So,
once
perfect.
they present it to staff, then they'll come back and present to you, and it could be as early as November, the November meeting, I honestly don't know.
Okay,
Cause I'm not sure how soon they can get out here to have the meeting with staff,
sure.
so.
No, fair enough. And we appreciate being able to be a part of it and, offer
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
input through that process.
That was just something that. I'm just confused because I thought we were gonna meet with them tonight, so we just found out. like-
They wanted to come and present tonight.
But they
But
hadn't gone through us first.
Yeah,
They were gonna show us all a design, a redo of the design without going through staff to make sure that's what was supposed to be in the master plan. So they were just gonna come in here and show the presentation without vetting it first.
And honestly, that came to interim city manager Rob Drake's attention because he said, has this come before the staff already? And we said, no, and he said, why not? And we said, we're not sure, it didn't come up, and he said, this kind of stuff should always go before the staff to make sure that they are meeting the master plan that they submitted, how many years ago, that it's still basically the same plan. I mean, we wouldn't know if they came and said, oh, here, we've got a plan for this half-acre park, when in the master plan, it was an acre and a half.
Mhm.
And so the staff reviews it to make sure that it matches what is in the master plan. Yes, this is an acre and a half park. What they're presenting today is an acre and a half park, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, well, I figured that way bring it up that way, people that are here or chiming on have the ability to
right,
step out if they
Yeah.
would like, so.
yeah,
That
And
way
it
they're not
is-
sitting here wondering what's going on or having to watch us go through bylaws.
yeah, and as soon as that meeting is taking place, then we'll get it on the next available Parks Board meeting,
Okay,
so.
perfect. That sounds great. So we'll table it. I'll send you the information that we've
Perfect.
collected.
Yep.
And we'll go from there and wait for their instruction. So, perfect. All right, so moving on to bylaws. I know I wasn't here last time. I know people brought a copy of theirs and just, I guess I'll kind of take a step back.
Yeah, actually, for those of you that don't know, Bill Reed got selected as the new city manager.
Okay,
He asked me this morning, if anybody had submitted, if any of the Parks Board members had submitted their changes to the EDC bylaws, I guess,
I
at
got,
the last meeting, you did, yeah.
yeah,
At the last meeting, you guys were asked to kind of ready what you wanted in there, what you didn't want in there, and I didn't get anything from anybody. Evan. I'm looking at you because you're making that face. It does look like Zach went through his copy and kind of highlighted and marked out some things. So I have a copy of it. I can pull it up. I don't know how well we'll be able to see it on the screen. But I think it could go very quickly if we just
Yeah.
kind of go through it.
that sounds good. Yeah, if we could, if it's possible, pull it up, that'd be great. If not, it looks like the majority of us have a copy or you send out electronic copy as well, so we
Right.
can view it that way too.
Okay. Now. I don't know how to get it full screen. Does anybody else know how to do that
Full screen.
from here?
I-
Can you read it
Yeah,
okay?
I can see, I mean, I don't know if everybody else can, but I can see okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it shows up pretty good there.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Which is kind of surprising.
Yeah,
but,
Is that-
I mean, if you wanna go on that, the plus minus up top, that should allow you to zoom in a little bit more,
okay,
but
how's that?
It's fine.
we good?
It's fine. Don't take it back to page.
Oh,
You can toggle if you want to. This one, you want one more time? Nope.
Hmm?
Click fix page again.
it's, I need to get rid of this thing, that's why. I want to get rid of the side view.
Click the hamburger on the top left.
There you go.
Ta-da, I actually did it. I haven't run one of these meetings in a long time on Zoom, so.
Thank you for your help.
Mhm.
She's a computer whiz compared to me, so, okay, I have my little red pen, so. You guys, maybe can just start,
So what I'm a little confused by, we already have the current codes. Like 3164 that he gave to us last time, and those already cover the purpose. 31.64 covers the purpose of this group. So I'm presuming if that's already the city code, we don't want to have a second document that is totally.
the
different.
bylaws are different than the code.
Why would the purpose not be the same in both? It seems like that you don't want a contradictory two different documents. Right? Isn't the code kind of a big deal? So I guess I wondered why, because he gave us a copy of the code last time. And it has the purpose. If we looked at that purpose and said it looks great, then I guess I'm just questioning, wouldn't it make more sense to start with the code stuff?
The code, to change the code, it requires, public notifications, city council approval, it requires an ordinance to change the code. These are strictly your bylaws, just your basic day-to-day meeting and,
Operational.
Parks and Recs meeting and roles and responsibilities. It's not codified as an ordinance.
But the codes, for instance, they cover establishment, membership, and qualifications, terms of office, meetings, purpose, compensation, quorum rules and regulations. I presume why wouldn't we just take that as a template for the bylaws? Because I would presume we don't want to have contradictory statements in the bylaws versus the code stuff, right? Because the code would take precedence over a bylaw.
Is,
Right.
is the code all accurate, like as far as?
Well, I'm saying wouldn't that be the starting point versus this?
Well, the only reason I asked is if it is, then is there stuff that we could take and just plug straight in?
I just sent a text to Bill. I
Okay,
think we're not gonna get very far tonight, so.
okay.
Well, because I guess if I'm wrong, let me know, but wouldn't the code take precedent over bylaws if we had contradictory stuff in the two?
I'm not sure. I think,
Is there
I think there's two
anything
different-
contradictory in here between the bylaws and did you find anything contradictory?
Well, we're talking about creating this document now from start. Why, I guess I'm just questioning for a starting point, why not just take what we already have in the city code and add or subtract to that? Because that to me is a template, right? It's got all the,
Well, one is code
Yeah.
and one is bylaws. Bylaws are policies and procedure, basically. It's the stuff that doesn't get spelled out into the code.
like purpose is already in the
It's,
code.
no, this is more of procedures, formality. Code is the greater picture. This tells you how you do it. So code, yes, you're gonna have that's gonna kind of be the default, but this tells you all the stuff that isn't written in the code. Does that make sense?
Well, except the purpose is already written in the code.
But
I'm having a hard time following, Don. Is there a conflict of interest or is there a what's the word? Is there a contradiction between these? Because you can have them in both places, but is there a contradiction that you see that you're
That's
trying
what
to?
I'm trying to avoid. I'm saying I would probably start with this purpose I already have on the code and add to that, to make sure they're consistent.
I think it's okay for us, could be wrong, but I think it's okay for us to have two. Like most, the only reason I bring this up, so like for me, I know my experience has been the nonprofits I've worked with, different charities I've worked with, all traditionally have bylaws, even major corporations do. And they can be separate outside of your mission and your vision and all those other things as a whole. And so I think for us, I think if we wanted to, we could try to take the code and take that stuff and insert it into here.
No,
But for me, it seems like at this point, let's just keep
I
it
just-
separate and just go through this and finish it.
yeah, I got a reply from Bill. The ordinance requires that each city commission and board have their own bylaws. The ordinance requires it. So that's why you're doing these separate from the ordinance. That's why we have economic development. They just got turned into a commission in January. They've just been an ad hoc group and they had to create their own bylaws, even though they were created as a commission, as an ordinance, and again, it's codified. They still had to create their own bylaws. And the Parks Board has to do the same, and the Planning Commission has had to do the same. Bylaws are required for every city, board, and commission.
Perfect. Standard procedure stuff, okay, sounds good, okay, so I guess with that said, did everybody have a chance to review them? A little bit, okay, do we wanna go line by line, or are there any like objections or major changes that people wanna make, at least on page one? I don't know which avenue we can go the snail's pace and go word by word, but if we've reviewed it, then is there any major changes?
Probably should change the name.
Well, yeah, outside of that, I guess outside of the name and the template,
Right.
but I mean, are there any like major, like issues you may have?
I mean, basically, any place where it says economic development, we can put parks and
Yeah.
recreation, that's
Yeah,
an easy
100%.
replacement. But you should be reading through each one to make sure that the words that encompass it, yeah,
Too.
that the
A lot
words,
of their stuff was more on economic development, and I think there's some lines that don't pertain to like parks and.
and we can absolutely cross these out.
I remember he's got 1 through
Our values.
11 or something that we didn't need to change a majority of those.
Hmm.
If I remember correctly from the last meeting.
Okay,
Zach, what changes did you have?
mine were more on page, what's page this one? Page 3, like in section 5, section 5, section 6, and section 7, and then article 5. More just by appointment, like, so, I guess going through, like if we wanted, it said, what does it say? The first one there, the members of the North Plains Economic Development Commission shall be appointed by the mayor and ratified by a vote of the council.
And that's kind of how it is done. I mean,
Okay,
anybody that applies, like right now, I have 3 people applied for the budget committee.
yeah,
They all have to go before the city council
yeah,
and they can do a vote that, and then once they do a vote, the mayor kind of completes the position
Okay.
by putting the person in the position. But it is a full council decision.
decision, okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, it wasn't a
Yeah,
concern
it
of,
is.
somebody at that point putting people in place that,
Yeah, that's a little, the wording is a little weird.
okay,
The mayor does not just go, yeah, you're on. It's.
Okay,
it's
yeah,
a
okay.
Council, it's a
It's a
city
council.
council
okay,
discussion, so.
fair enough. I guess that was mine from that, section 6, shall be 3-year staggered terms, do we wanna,
Oh, yeah, ours are, we just redid you guys' terms. They were 2 years forever. And we did them to 4. Patty, or Evan, do you remember when? It's been in the last like 3 years? We were grandfathering
Yeah,
everybody in
yeah.
as
I
their
think it was like
term.
a year or 2 that we did it.
Yeah, so they're now 4-year terms,
4-year terms?
4-year terms.
Okay,
Yep.
I think the one purpose that would be interesting to add more would be, we've talked about before the whole budget piece. That if we want to get more like, say, the library where we submit a budget to the city council, we want to say eventually get a part-time or a full-time staff person. I think we could talk about if that would be part of our purposes, preparing a budget. Right, however we say that.
Well, you'd want to do that once that part of the plan has been moved forward, but right now, there's no plans for any kind of staff or anything, so we wouldn't want to put that in here now. Because we have no idea when that will happen.
If anything, that would be more of you help identify the need and propose, hey, we need the staffing, but the budget would be part of the budget committee more than anything. And we would just kind of propose, hey, there's a need. Can we get this need? Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose would be obviously, we're just making recommendations, but to me, a purpose would be for us to discuss a budgetary recommendation that goes to the next step, right?
Probably a loose, like a wish list,
But an actual, what hasn't happened since I've been here is we never, ever talk about a budget. So of course, it's never come to the city council. The idea of, let's say we want a half-time staff person, wouldn't that come from us?
Well, it's basically, we don't have a budget for parks, so that's
Right.
part of the reason.
Well, that's what I'm getting at as a purpose, that we would, the library obviously started where we started with no budget, and now they have one and they talk about it. So how would we, right? I'm just bringing that up as a possible purpose that we would. Knowing that we're just making recommendations, I get that.
I think the bigger picture would be how do we raise the funds to be able to get that budget? Like, we could put a number as our budget, but if we don't have a revenue stream to come in to be able to fund that, that's the bigger picture.
That's not us though. That's, if we get turned down, we get turned down, but the library does the same thing. They submit, we are requesting the following staff members, and then I understand the city council meets and says we can't afford it. Sorry, but all we're doing is presenting our wish list, our request, knowing, right?
I'm trying to,
What I'm used to in most cities is the library would be pretty similar to Parks and Rec, and every place else I've been, Parks and Rec have budgets based on their proposal.
I think
that's different,
part of that also is that the library has their separate pool of funds from WCCLS as well, versus the Parks Board does not have a direct stream of revenue. And that was part of the intention with the police levy, was could we free up some of the city's general fund to not have to, have over 50% of our budget for police come from the general fund, and then we could allocate that to parks, but unfortunately that levy did not pass. So the Parks Board's budgetary constraints are gonna remain until we've figured out another allocation or revenue source for parks. And correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone.
No,
wants to
that's a
chime in.
perfect explanation. It's 100% perfect. That is exactly
Well,
right.
that's within your rights to turn us down. I'm just saying it would also be appropriate for us to be dreaming of where we'd like to see this go. And if you say at this point, we don't have the money, I get it, but the library gets several $100,000 a year out of the city budget, right? Separate from their grants, which I'm all in favor of them. And they request money from the city, right?
Mhm.
So why couldn't we do the same? Now, if we don't get it, we don't get it. I get that.
Totally, and again, anyone feel free to chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, and. That could be a proposal, right? But I think,
Yeah.
getting kind of into the weeds and in the inner workings, and, I will. Advertise, please come to a budget meeting, because there are some really tough decisions that have to be made at those meetings. Do we allocate a few $1,000s to parks, or do we cut down a half-time FTE officer, right? And those are the tough decisions
Mhm.
that have to be made, and I would just really encourage anyone on this board or anyone online as well to get involved with the budget committee and get into the weeds and see those line by line items, because unfortunately there's not, we're not swimming in cash flow, as a, as an entity to be able to say, here's, you know, $500,000 Parks Board, which I know would be an astronomical amount, but that's where, you know, trying to get creative as well with Parks Foundation and how do we bring these things to life? So I'll pass it back over to Dustin if you have anything you want to add.
I don't think I have anything more to add at this point. I think that was very well said. Thank you.
Dawn, are you suggesting that for the purposes and duties, we put that in there for when and or if that ever comes to us? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, it's not an if, I mean,
Definitely not.
I mean, in fairness, to say, don't ask for money because we won't give you any is probably not the fair way to do it. If we wanna submit a budget, then we get turned down, I'm okay with that, but I don't think it's bad to say our purpose is. to
Yes, you're
eventually
suggesting
look
to
at-
put that into the purposes and duty arc.
Our
Article number two.
purpose would be.
Purpose and duty, add that as one of the lines, is what you're suggesting.
To create a biennial budget or something, and we would submit a proposal. However, I imagine like the library people or whoever are told when they submit their requests, right? I mean, Lori would know more about that. Is there a timeline when they say, here's our request?
Normally, in all honesty, what happens is they look at the budget that we're working on right now. And in the spring, they will basically look at how much the costs have risen and just raise everything by 3.5% or whatever is the going
Inflation.
inflation, rate of inflation. I mean, they don't go in and say, oh, we got $12,000 for books this year. Let's go in and ask for 24. I mean, they go in and say, we got 12,000. The rate of inflation is 3%, so we add 3% to that and we ask for
If
whatever.
different departments don't submit requests, like if they want additional staff or whatever, it doesn't work that way in the budget.
No, it does not work that way. It's a discussion amongst everybody at once. I mean, I think Dustin will go into the city manager sometimes and say, you know, can we look at this or can we look at that? But in general, it's an all staff, because what he wants and the money that he gets is gonna affect another department.
Yeah.
Just like if the Parks Board says we want $1,000 a month to run some kind of program, we've gotta take that out of some other place. And so it has to be a group discussion. You can't just say, oh, well, the library has a lot of money, let's take $1,000 a month out of their budget. You have to, it's an all group discussion when it comes to stuff like that. It is, if it's more than just the monthly or the rate of inflation that they're going above. I mean, for major things, it's a major discussion, like when we needed a vac truck and it was how much?
The vac truck repair was over $35,000, so I had to move that from other funds that I had within my department. But as far as funds for the Parks Department, it's very minimal.
It's maintenance mostly.
Yeah, it's maintenance. We do have capital funds for parks, like we did have some money set aside for, let's say, the improvement of the dog park. So there was funds that was set aside for that. But because the investigation was that it was gonna cost so much money, those funds were not used, and we opted to go in and do the dog park the way we did with very minimal. So we've got funds for a capital project right there. But I can't use that for certain items. So that's something that we could discuss, is like, hey, in my budget for next year, I already have a surplus of this that we didn't use for this project. Perhaps we can talk about projects, in that sense. Hey, we can use it maybe for Jesse Mays, or we can use it for a new playground at one of the other parks. So we can kind of move the funds around that way in a sense, and we can kind of discuss what we can use with that money, maybe, if that's what you're.
I understand we're not gonna make the final decision. I'm just saying, from being on the Parks The biggest thing I see is when we have no staff people, every other city I'm aware of would have Parks and Rec staff. If we could at least have a part-time staff person, then we could start to do some programming, which, you know, I tried to do as a volunteer, but once we got at least a part-time Parks and Rec staff person, I think it would start to change. We could now start to offer programs, we could start to offer things.
Oh, I totally agree, but it's just getting the funds to be able to get that. And I don't think that, we don't have that capability as a board to be able to do that. That's gonna be the budget. committee.
All I'm saying is, I get we're advisory, but what I'm used to is budget requests are given. If they get turned down, they get turned down. I get that. But what I'm used to is we still allow different groups to submit their budget requests. So to say we're not allowed to submit a budget request because there's no money seems odd.
So,
I see it as projects and need versus actual monetary funds, because if you say, hey, we need 2 FTE, then that can go to the budget committee and they can figure out the actual money for that. Or, hey, we need a project to do, you know, the kitchen, or we need to do a playground or do that. Like, if you give me a project, then I can figure out the funds and fight for those funds from the budget committee and whatnot, if that makes sense.
What about if we want a half-time staff person?
Don, I know this is a very important conversation, but I think we're getting way off topic from going through the art.
Yes, yeah, this
I
is,
think that was what was mentioned in the last meeting, that's the beauty of the bylaws. I think then that's why we want to create them, because we can keep from the code and the bylaws, is that we can change them as we evolve and as the city grows. And in the future, we get a budget or not, or we have more to say on that. Those are the things that could evolve within the bylaws as we go on. Right now, I think we just need a starting base for the bylaws, and we can't. I think it's hard for us to create all of this in the bylaws right now in this conversation, because it's something that doesn't exist right now. So in order to move forward, I think what we need to do is just create a baseline with what we have been doing and what we know that we can kind of do right now, and wait. I mean, a lot of things are kind of in limbo right now with the city and everything, and the voting coming up and all of that, and the growth of the city. Those are gonna be a big, huge, change as things evolve down the line and in years. So I think if we focus on just what we have right now and what we can work with right now at the moment, and at least create a baseline. And that's the beauty of the bylaws, that you can change them a lot easier as things evolve,
yes,
rather than changing the code, which
Correct.
yes.
is a huge mess. to
Correct.
change in a code.
How would you go, just out of curiosity, how would you go through changing a bylaw?
It would just,
It
would just be, yeah, presented, you guys would vote on it.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
you guys would vote on it. And that's why at the last meeting, I think Bill wanted each of you to kind of go through and make your, suggestions, cross out what you don't want. I mean, this one, to me, the EDC is a lot more involved than the Parks Board one needs to be,
I agree.
honestly. You don't need to get into sectors of the city and that kind of stuff. I mean, this can be a very high overhead view of how your meeting should be run, what your initial very basic goals are, to provide parks and walking spaces for residents of the city. I mean, it can be very high level. And then they can be, then if you decide you want to make them more detailed down the road, if we get a part-time, employee that can help with programs, then you can readdress that part of the bylaws. But I think at this point, it can be a pretty high view of what you guys are looking at. And maybe it's you guys taking it back again at home and doing it through yourself. Patty's nodding at that. Now that you kind of know what we're looking for, I think it might be a good idea. If you take, like Zach's already got his done, but if the rest of you take it home, mark through it, add stuff, as long as it's readable, legible, then if you email it to me, then I can put them all together.
Yeah.
And get ideas and then I can also list the ones that are 1s and 2s of each thing and say, hey, do you want to add this? You know, does this look like it needs to go in here, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
The goal is to have it done by the end of this year, so if you guys can do that, Patty, I saw that face.
Sorry. Well, I think, you know, to get back into the mode of where we were at 7, we still have the time.
Yeah.
I think, why don't we go through just the beginning, kind of not focus so much on the thing, because it's not gonna go into this adamant law right now.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
and we kind of,
Now, as what
Yeah.
we all agree with
I
and
agree.
not, and then those things that we kind of individually want to work more to emphasize a little bit more on, those are the things we should bring on, because I think if we walk away without even doing anything right now, we're gonna be back to square one next month.
that's
I
true,
agree.
and I can tell you right now, like the membership stuff, general membership, that's all pretty much the same for all our boards and commissions, attendance.
Yeah,
Everything from Article 3, duties of officers, appointment, all that stuff is very, straightforward. And I can wordsmith it to make it fit Parks and Recreation.
I agree.
Same with voting. You know, even though you are only a recommendation making board,
Yeah.
you still vote on those recommendations, and so that really doesn't have any other changes.
Mhm.
The meetings, and honestly, I think in the code, it says that the Parks Board has to meet at the minimum quarterly.
Well, that was
So-
what I had highlighted here too, based on this, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead by not starting that sentence 1, but I didn't know if that was something that we wanted to consider. Cause then my hope was that as we went through, we could make marks and I could type it up and then bring it back, and then I could send it to you and then pull it up, what do we think, and then we could add on the fly.
Exactly,
And then
yeah,
hopefully wrap it up.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
Let's go to
So
the
I-
start.
You want to start, go from the start, work our way through?
I don't think we really need to do anything with Article 1 except change the name in there, that one.
right,
Fair enough.
And
that's,
then-
yeah,
So I
that's,
figure easiest thing to do is the Article 2.
Okay, perfect.
Like, for example,
Go ahead.
for Dawn's purposes, or if we ever got funds, is to say for one of our purposes and duties is to discuss and strategize the best usage of any park and rec funds that come to us to best serve the city.
Identify priorities.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
which is kind of what we,
That was just a generalization, sort of just go off of that as a suggestion for what Dawn was talking about. For one of the duties and purposes and duties.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody want to start? Want to take it? And go through?
That was the start.
What's that?
Go ahead.
That was the start? Okay.
I thought that was the start.
All right, so number 1, purposes economic, we'll cross it out. There we go, R, okay. To create an awareness both in the public and private sectors of the city of the need for and the encouragement of effective community and economic development. We can cross off most of that, but
I think that's just where we fill in our own there.
yeah,
So that's what my suggestion was for one of the purposes and duties. Take it. I don't know how many we want to put in there. But like she said, it doesn't have to be, it can be very vague.
mhm,
well, and
once
we
they're
can,
creating, maybe that could be where it's to identify priorities
mhm.
in both public and private, or I don't know how we word that to, instead of a
Call this
community
wordsmithing.
economic, yeah. So instead of creating, we identify priorities. I like the second one about encouraging cooperation,
Mhm.
so encouraging cooperation between public and, I don't know, private sectors. To provide an effective,
And we just cut that part out and put
Yeah.
in
yeah,
something.
Parks and Recreation Program, or
Yes,
yeah.
Parks and Recreation Facilities and Program.
Program,
Yeah.
yes.
I think that sounds great.
I also like number 3 to
Yep.
advise, because that's what we're more of an advisory board.
Yep.
To advise on the goals, the strategies and policies of both the city and Parks and Recreation
Yep.
programming to facilitate an effective,
Maybe add for park development,
yeah, park development
incoming.
programming or same thing. And then the assist part is also good, is because besides us advising, it'd be, I think it would go in hand with the involvement of all us being on the board, is that we all assist in whatever that programming is, or whatever we want to call it or word it. So, in policy and advocacy.
Mhm.
So now we're down. Does anybody else want to add anything else to that, or were we good with those four?
I'm good with those
Yeah.
four to start, we can always add as we go, so.
Yeah. Good if it's
Going back
like
over them again, I guess we just only get to change a couple words more so that I can get rid of them.
We're identifying priorities, we're encouraging, we're advising, and we're assisting. And then the next one,
We move it down on the screen there.
Scroll down.
the duties of arts and rec and this is where our duties are, we're not. Are we developing anything as part of, so I think that one should be, then that word and all of that should be, yeah.
The whole first one gone.
Scrap it.
I do agree with the second one about receiving input.
Mhm.
That's something that is really big. We're about programming and park development and all of that, which is a lot of community involvement and engagement. So receiving input, I think that should be a priority for us to hear and receive input from the local community residents. Kind of like that outreach and engagement that we should all carry upon being on the board.
Mhm.
For the first one, couldn't we just change it to developing long-term parks and recreational programs that align with the city's vision and goals?
Or instead of saying long-term, just programming.
Just program.
Yeah.
just in general,
Yeah,
there's
sure.
nothing, we don't wanna put ourselves that we're here to start something and have it go forever, it's just
Yeah.
in general.
I
Like
guess
not
that, yeah,
being
that makes better
a
sense,
timeline.
especially for how things are usually.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It's like right now, we don't have the staffing to create the programming, but within us, we
Right.
can do, it's like the gym night that was going on.
yeah,
So we can at least facilitate programs like
Right.
that.
and taking out the word long-term, because it would be nice if in the summers we could do something where it's just the summers. but
Seasonal.
not- Yeah.
So-
It's
So I've got it as develop facilities and programming strategies that align with city vision and goals for city council approval.
Yeah,
City council and resident
yeah.
approval or something like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think number three makes sense at the start, at least for like any initiatives or plans that we plan on doing. We put together some
To promote.
marketing materials, like promote things that we wanna do.
To
Yeah,
promote.
because that goes along with having that communication.
Yeah,
Again, because we're part of community is the reason of all parks and recs, so it's important for us to market and communicate to,
yeah,
community. And I think I like the fourth one too, about providing resources, but instead of saying like funding opportunities and businesses, it's more about resources or anything that we can bring or have or provide and inform.
It's sort of like
community
how we have the
awareness.
billboards that show where the parks are and all that.
Yeah. Or programming that's gonna happen, even if it's something that's not the city doing it, but like, the events, right, you know, things like that.
So provide information about events,
Events,
facilities, programs.
programming, yeah.
I think number five is a big one too.
Mhm.
Infrastructure improvements, and that can be simple as park development,
Yeah.
you know, trails, bikes, you know, whatever make.
Parks and recreational development.
Yeah, so they can.
I don't know if we need broadband access for that though.
Make sure that one, but.
Well,
Some
the other
people
two,
might want-
the other two are good, but the third one's iffy there on that.
Some people want Wi-Fi in the park.
So far, do we feel relatively comfortable with page one? Or just a rough start?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think most of them have a general idea what we want, it's just.
Yeah, any of you that have written anything down, just email it to me so that I can kind of,
Okay.
I'll use the best wording from everybody's and put it together and then
Sounds good.
give it back to you guys.
Okay. Number 6, develop recommendations and advise council and city manager on incentive programs such as tax incentives, grants, loans.
So that could be on,
So I would scratch the second half of that entire sentence probably.
yeah, so recommendations and advise council and city manager on, facilities and programs and ways,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and ways to help with funding, like the
Yeah.
Parks Foundation and other fundraisers
Yeah.
and,
That was perfect, job with funding, yeah,
yeah,
program.
perfect. And then number 7, seek to develop, collaborate with and coordinate, close communications and relationships between the city government, chamber of commerce, private business, industries, neighborhood cities, regional.
I think
most
right
that-
here, we should add the Parks Foundation
Yeah,
where?
on that number 7.
Oh, absolutely, we can
Yeah.
take, we can take out the economic development ones, but
Yeah.
definitely leave the chamber, leave private businesses and
I'll stay.
industries. But add, Parks Foundation for
That
sure.
was pretty much written itself.
yeah,
Do we need to add North Plains Events Association in
Oh,
there
yeah.
or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So those can all go, and we can leave in interested citizens
Mhm.
regarding. Parks. Facilities and programs and.
I don't know, if we need line number 8.
certain environment could use for entrepreneurship, innovation, which can
Oh, sorry.
include home occupancy, businesses, startups, encourage programs such as incubators, provide access to.
No, are we down?
Yeah, I agree. It should be Excel.
Yeah,
So what, take
take 8 out.
completely out, okay,
Yeah.
See, we reworded,
Yeah.
for us.
okay,
Okay,
Cause that seems a lot similar to number 7.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of bringing everything together. Number 10, assist in the gathering and analysis of economic data and trends to inform decision-making, track progress, and identify areas where city policies and programs are needed.
Hey, that's
Well-
what you did with Bryn Hill and gather the.
so that's a good one that can be left, but, assist the gathering and analysis of economic data isn't the right word, though.
Community
Appro-
data?
Community or appropriate data
Yeah,
with regards to the
Surveys.
yeah,
And maybe like outreach data or something.
Yeah.
That's what's been done is right.
yeah,
Doing
through
outreach.
outreach data. Okay. Anything else to add? Okay. And then provide guidance on zoning regulations, permitting processes, and other regulatory matters to streamline
that
business
can all
operations.
go, I think.
Yeah. Anybody wanna keep any of that, or are we good to scratch?
I think we're
Good to scratch? Okay. Hey, look at us. All right.
Cruising right along.
Yeah, Article 3 membership. I read through these, besides changing names, I think it all
That's-
is
yeah,
exactly
I
streamlined.
agree.
Anybody have a disagreement on that?
I'm trying to
Okay,
remember,
sure.
I think I remember when we went through this, that there was
So
just a couple we needed to do.
there's a couple things that, that are changed from how it's been. We've always let the chair of a board be the chair as long as they want to be a chair and as long as they're elected. In this case with the EDC, they can only serve 2 terms in a row as chair, so 2 years, basically.
Mhm.
And then they would have to take at least 1 year off, and then they could be the chair again, but they cannot be more than 2 years in a row. So if you wanna keep that for your group, that's fine. If you wanna consider some other way, some other terms, then this is where we would put it in.
I'll be honest, I'm fine with that, like going to that. I mean, for people, like life changes, right? Things come up, priorities change.
Exactly.
You know, why have a figurehead that perhaps sits there forever? You know, I'd rather have and want the person that's best suited for the job to be able to have access to that. if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I mean,
So to be having term limits, I think is a good thing.
they keep voting the person in, because we have an election every
And
year,
that's an option, absolutely, but.
because then everyone else would think that person's still the best.
I think.
Yeah.
I think from coming from, like, we step back and take a bigger picture, and this is not pointing at no one, but when we vote and everybody comes in and votes for someone and we don't know what we're voting from. What we don't know at times, right? But we don't know down that line what those visions and values of that one person that can stay in that one place for an amount of time.
Right.
So I think that's where terms are better, and it also gives opportunities for
Yes.
within the group to also have that factor and be part of it. So it's not against any person in particular, it's just allowing an opportunity for others, and
Totally.
also allowing an opportunity for when things aren't going that great, that it doesn't hold back the board within all.
Right,
And you can just keep going and going.
and it is, I mean, it has happened, there are times when there's been a chair and their whole life has turned upside down in the middle of a year, and they just say, "Well, I can't be chair anymore, because I can't, and that's fine too, then
Right.
the vice chair steps in, and then it works, we can be flexible with it. But what I'm concerned about is that you guys make your decision on how many consecutive terms someone can hold the chair position.
You said our terms are 2 years?
4,
No, but the election's only one year, it's like,
Yeah, so
So we
it's
choose not to
confusing
chair.
that use of term. I would leave the word term out and just say
you
year,
can be chair 2 years in a row,
say years, yeah.
yeah, 2 years in a row.
Okay.
Your terms are each 4 years.
Yep,
And the election or the vote for chair and vice chair happens at your first meeting in January. So, or if you decide it could be at the December meeting, it doesn't matter. We have one board that does it, that always wants to do it in December. So,
I think it might be better to do it in December, because then you start.
so they're ready to go in January.
okay,
That's why I
So
wasn't really
we
thinking we needed
nominate
term
a
limits. 'cause
chair, we'd say they're
You redo it every
2
year.
years.
No, they're there for a year, and then they can be nominated again for a second year, but
Okay,
not a
third.
third year. They can have they can be a chair for 2 consecutive years if they're elected in, but not a third year. They can take a third year off and then be elected again the 4th year, but they cannot be a chair more than 2 consecutive years.
That's why I was thinking we don't really need this, considering that we re-elect them every year. It's not a 4-year term, it's like just a 1 year, it's like,
So over here, you're already elected every year. Is that what you're saying?
we have an election every year for the new chair and vice chair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's already
Yeah,
it's already in place then.
it's not like the president.
But there's not a limit to how many times you can be chair.
Every
This
chair.
limits the years in a row that you can be chair.
how long guys?
So you don't have to wait like a couple of years, it's just a 1 year cycle, and then we have a vote at I think it'd be best before the next year. To decide the next chair and vice chair,
That's what-
because we vote for the vice chair and vice chair.
Okay, so this is basically the change right now would be just creating a term for.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Just a term, I think, just for the chair.
Yeah, just for the chair.
Yeah, they just can't be chair more than 2 years in a row.
I know it's a little bit confusing when we're considered, we have terms.
I support that for the 2 years. I don't do it every year, obviously, but then an extent of 2.
I think a better word would be cycle.
Yeah, 2 years, yeah. I think a max of 2, and then I don't know.
So
It's-
there's
it's
no
on-
member shall
it's
serve
on
2
to me.
consecutive terms as chair. That's
Yeah.
what the wording is here. And it's just like Joanna said, it just gives other people an opportunity.
Totally.
And honestly, I would like to see, if you're on the board for 8 years, I would like to see everybody take a turn at being the chair. I just think you get different ideas, different ways of seeing things. Everybody leads meetings differently. I just think it's a positive thing. Even though Patty never wants to be chair.
Should we do
We're
the,
gonna burn them.
yeah. Should we do then maybe this is too bold, a new chair every year? Or is that too much
I
inconsistency?
don't think so.
I do like a little bit of consistency,
Okay.
Yeah.
but that's just me.
Sure.
And only because honestly, this board has more turnover than the others and you get new people. Sometimes, I mean, we've had several people move out of town
Sure.
that have been on the board. And so, you know, then you bring a new person in and it,
They have to learn everything.
Yeah.
It's- Yeah.
Fair enough.
And fair enough, we don't really have enough meetings and we don't sort of do as much stuff as often.
Mhm. So we wanna say then, stay with the current 2-year term and,
Two,
Okay.
okay?
2 1-year terms?
Yeah,
yes, two.
Yeah, no member shall
consecutive
serve
terms.
2
Yeah.
consecutive 1-year
One-year
terms.
unless we wanna make it 3.
No,
No.
No, I think truth's fair, when we think of the fact that, you know, we have 7 people on the board, and that's potentially a long wait for someone that really, maybe potentially really wants it.
Well,
you
it's
know,
only a
so-
year. Cause then
Yeah.
you can just, they really wanted it.
okay, we kind of skipped over in the attendance, it does say, that someone from this, well, the idea is hopefully someone from this board, and it can be rotating, will give a quarterly report at a city council meeting.
I think that's really good.
That's really important.
I think
EDC started
yeah.
doing it and
I think it gives us accountability. too.
Exactly.
If we're gonna say we're gonna do something, it gives us accountability of what we're going to council, and I think it keeps everyone cohesive, all the with council and with everybody. And it keeps all of us on the same page throughout everything going on.
agreed. Cause honestly, if you ask council, other than who's been here tonight, I don't think they know that you guys are working on bylaws. I mean, they don't know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so, in this case, like the EDC, just so you know, they, work together, it takes them, 15, 20 minutes just to put a brief little statement together of what they've been working on the last 3 months.
Mhm.
We got together with the chamber, we're working on a survey, we're gonna go around to the businesses, I mean, just,
Mhm.
it's real cut and dry, doesn't need to get into the weeds or anything. And then you guys select someone to come to a city council meeting and during, city, staff comments, or when would it be? Staff reports, yeah, probably be the second meeting of a month when all the staff give their staff reports, it would be then each board or commission has someone that gives their quarterly reports. And again, that's something that I think everybody should take a turn at.
Meetings are usually after ours, right?
Yes,
So this
we
is-
have
So
it,
then it'd probably
next
be better
Monday
to
after.
add The agenda every 3 months. Just to make a little, put that in the agenda to make a little report just for that.
yep, and, yeah, I'll do it. You should
That
probably
sounds
do it at the November meeting, because I'm not sure how December meetings are gonna fall. Sometimes we don't have the second council meeting because of the holidays and stuff. So I will add that, so you guys can put together a brief statement at the next meeting, November, and then someone can come and present it at the following Monday at that council meeting, which is what date? Do you have the
Wait, so are we
calendar?
gonna start this next month or present to and do?
Yeah, only because, like I said, I'm not sure they'll have a second meeting in December. They don't
Oh,
always.
yeah.
So, and then you can start the quarterly again,
Yeah.
January, February, in March. So March, June, September and December
Okay.
kind of thing. So,
And don't they usually put that towards the beginning of the agenda?
the staff reports are usually at the beginning.
So if somebody had some big agenda, couldn't stay if it was a longer meeting, they could.
Yeah, staff reports are always,
Yeah.
after public comment.
Yeah.
So anything else after that, like ordinances and resolutions and other
So it would have to
stuff.
be a longer meeting and the person had to go.
No, it would be within the first, and we could actually put the boards and commission meetings before the staff even.
Well, we can all take turns here, and then if someone has something going on, we can. all-
Okay, so,
As long as we're not talking about
Go.
UGB.
It's not like we're gonna speak.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
so I will put, to add the quarterly report onto your agenda for your November meeting. You will create that report amongst you. Like I said, paragraph, 3 minutes, doesn't have to be anything in depth. And then you guys decide who's gonna sit up there at that table and give it at the following Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, quarterly.
Uh, For section 5 for appointment, obviously, we cleaned out mayor and put city council. For the appointment.
Yeah, we'll just put appointed by a vote of the mayor and city council.
Perfect. And then. Okay, anything else in section 5?
Well, it's pretty basic for all the boards.
Okay.
You guys review any applicants when we have vacancy.
You're in the term change. in
Yeah,
3
you
years
make the
before.
recommendation and it goes to council.
Okay, perfect. All right, so section 6, we just went through that earlier.
Yeah, that's 4
4
years.
years,
Yeah,
okay. Section 7. Do we wanna have the same
We wanna put,
language that's in the first
Let's
sentence of
see.
section 5 be the same as in section 7? That's.
oh, yeah,
Mayor and city council,
Yeah.
same thing for vacancies there too,
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
or is it you saying about like a vote from the board?
yeah, that's the same thing, and then,
for which one again?
Section 7. So appointments, like if we have like a vacancy.
Yeah, we usually do have a vote after we've heard all the candidates.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, do we wanna add something like that in to start?
Probably.
Uh, Anybody that wants to basically be a part of the board can apply to, we need to get that far into the weeds, you think? An applicant will address us, at that point, we make a recommendation, then from there, it gets
well,
bounced
it
up.
says it up there, and it says that, in number 5, that, applicants for a position, will provide to city council a recommendation for appointment based on interviews held, which is, that's how you guys do it. I mean, you know,
So you think 5 already coming in?
I kind of feel like 5 and I can combine 5 and 7,
Okay,
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to
Yeah.
combine together.
yeah, to make sense.
good. Anything else? And that before we move on? Okay. Article 9, voting, seems pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
Anything else?
Article 9, that's Article.
Or,
Article 4, I'm sorry, I was reading that, my bad. Sorry.
The only other thing I would say for that one is I know we've had a junior member before.
We can't get one, and we never, I mean, I have Cameron put up things at the schools and everything, and,
Yeah.
but,
I just wasn't sure if we wanted to add like junior member also for that, they don't get a vote.
they don't get a vote. We can add that,
Just in case we ever got another one. Just because it's happened once.
right.
Okay. Perfect. Article 5, meetings. That was one of the things I was gonna ask. Do we still wanna meet monthly? Do we wanna meet quarterly? Do we wanna meet every other month? Do we wanna look to take like
I think we should,
December and July off, or
I think
are there
we should
certain?
still
Yeah.
use this, just say at least quarterly. We can still do the meetings monthly, but I think we should at least meet quarterly. Or like we said, to give also to come up with the thing for the city council. So I think we should change to say at least quarterly.
What does everybody else think?
Do any of the others, Lori, meet quarterly?
No, planning commission meets every month, because I mean, they have a lot of work to do. The EDC, they will skip months, depending on the month, depending on who's gonna be here, depending on if they are still working on, they have their individual subgroups where one subgroup is talking with downtown or businesses, one subgroup is talking with Glencoe businesses. And if they say, you know, we haven't had enough time to talk to everybody that we want to, then they'll just say, we'll skip this meeting and go next month. They probably so far this year, I think we've passed on 3 meetings with EDC. One of them is usually the week of the 4th of July. And so they just don't meet because people are gone on vacation. It's a holiday week. Garlic Festival, a lot of times, council will take, not a lot of times, sometimes council will take that week. If they have a council meeting that week, they will take that Monday off. And there's been times when planning commission has taken that Wednesday off if it's fallen
It
during,
would be nice if they were.
Yeah.
And this year they didn't, they were here.
yeah, and we have the book sale in here.
Yeah,
It's
it's a mess.
chaos. It is. It drives me crazy that we have meetings the
Yeah.
week of Garlic
I
Festival.
mean, I'd probably then say, I mean, quarterly might not be enough, but I would probably say 10 times a year or something, take off December and either July or August, one of those 2 months.
That's why I'm suggesting just say at least.
At least quarterly.
Say,
I
yeah,
think got the meetings where they're
yeah.
unnecessary, because I know we've had it before when we haven't really had anything to talk about.
Exactly, and that's, you know,
That's why I say, just say.
I'm not
at
in
least
for
quarterly.
having meetings just to have meetings because
Yeah,
it says you have to have a meeting every month.
it's a
That's
waste of time.
a waste of people's time. And you guys are all busy people, have families and, so I don't see where that's necessary,
Mhm.
but, and there's been a couple times when we haven't had a quorum too.
Yeah,
When there's been, you know, a couple people sick and one person on vacation and, you know, so if we don't have a quorum, there's no sense in meeting. You can meet and discuss things, but why would you want to discuss things when 4 of your 7 are gone?
right.
So, I mean, it can be,
Turn it to a workshop or something.
but again, you want to do a workshop when more than half of your crew's gone, you know, I mean, then you have to go over it all again at the next meetings. I mean, you can put at least at least quarterly basis,
Minimum quarterly.
Yeah.
yeah,
Seems fair.
yeah.
I figure within 3 months, we at least have something to talk about.
Exactly, and, you know, that ends up being a group discussion if, you know, if I email Zach and say, hey, you know, it's time for your stuff for the agenda, and he's like, well, I really don't have anything, then normally I will take that email and forward it to all you guys and say, hey, do you have stuff for an agenda? Because right now, we don't really have anything. So if you guys have something you want to talk about, tell me and I'll put it on the agenda. And if you don't, then why do we need to have a meeting?
Mhm.
So it's not just the chair deciding that we're not gonna have a meeting. It's, you know, I mean, just because he says he doesn't have anything doesn't mean that Patty doesn't have 3 things she wants to bring up. So at a minimum quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay. That went way too far.
Section 2 here. Special meetings may be held as necessary and may be called by the chair, with concurrence of 3 other members. Persons calling a special meeting shall fix the time and location for the meeting.
That's a
Is that,
basic,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
I mean, it covers those
Something happens.
oddball times.
yeah. Okay, section 3, notice and access to meetings. Notice of all meetings shall be given to the city recorder, all members, ex officio members, in accordance with Oregon state law. Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Conduct of meetings. Was there anything on that anybody?
Quorum may act as a majority. Standard stuff.
Yeah, me too. Okay, perfect. All right,
Don't think we're gonna need to do anything to number 6, since we don't really have any subcommittees. If I remember correctly.
We do.
We do.
We've been doing something.
Yeah, we've been doing them.
That did apply for us and it worked out.
Yes, it did,
That just
because
started, right?
Patty and Sherry did the kitchen and
You and Don for
We
the
did the
gym.
the gym stuff, yeah, so we need to leave that in there.
It does apply, right?
Yeah,
And-
correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this number that.
So they've got them being appointed by the chair. I mean, we can leave that in there, but it really, you guys kind of decided your own, and actually so did the EDC. It's not like the chair went, okay, you and you were gonna work on this, and you, it was, you know, what is your strong point? I want to deal with the businesses downtown. Okay, you're on that subcommittee kind of thing.
Yeah, we could delete like appointed by
Right.
the chair and just do it.
Group discussion.
Yeah, by the board, you know.
Board discussion.
Yeah, by the
Yeah.
council, however you want to do it. Yeah. Okay,
Okay, but
the board, okay.
and you should serve in the okay. And those are the kind of things that, again, can go into your quarterly council report. If you're a subcommittee, you provide that to whoever's gonna be given the report. And you can say this, the subcommittee on whatever
Mhm.
has been working on this.
Yep.
So does the subcommittee have to have an appointed chair? and
No.
stuff?
No, that's
No.
not
Can that be taken?
Yeah, we'll take that out.
But include that when we do have a subcommittee, we do report back.
Yeah, I'll take all of that out. Yeah, in fact, EDC, they report monthly on what they've done since the last meeting, so. Okay,
I think the only things for this, I think a good thing to include on there is that all subcommittees should report
Back to
that
the board.
back at, you know, our main,
Yep,
report it, yeah,
I agree.
At least,
whatever it is that we're,
maybe at least quarterly, just sort of like
Yeah.
for the report as well.
yeah, kind of update
Mhm.
as a board what everyone's doing, or what each subcommittee's doing.
and honestly. This, where it says may be called by the chair of such subcommittee, you guys don't need to pick a chair, I mean,
Yeah.
it's subcommittee of like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
So you're a chair and I'm not, I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
not necessary,
I
so.
think we have enough people to,
Yeah, and you guys set your, subcommittees set their own meeting times, it's away from, we don't publicly post them or anything, because there's not a quorum, so,
I think the only thing is that we all carry the responsibility to bring back here. to our
Yes.
meeting
Mhm.
what we're doing, which I think we did great this year.
mhm. Okay,
I don't think we need any changes for Articles 7 and 8.
yeah, those are,
Well, except for obviously names.
yeah, that's what it says, they can be changed at any time with a majority vote.
That was it, huh?
Look at us.
I think we all knew what we wanted, it's just, when you look at it, it's a little bit harder to write down.
I just think when we're thinking of bylaws, we get to kind of tunnel vision that it's gonna be set in stone and we can't change it back. But I remember that was the conversation last month, that that's the beauty of the bylaws.
Yeah, they're easy to change,
Yeah.
unlike an ordinance, unlike something in the code. Yeah, exactly, so, yeah, anytime you guys think you wanna change something, you just send it to me and we put it on an agenda and then you have a discussion and vote. That's how the bylaws work.
Okay.
So,
The only problem is you can't change it if it contradicts the code, right?
We'll get to it when we get to it.
I'm not in for that, I'm
I
not.
mean, now maybe what we should do, maybe what was said before is maybe there's too much in the code. Maybe we should just take out a bunch of the code.
There's really not a lot in the code.
No, there's
I'm like,
not.
there's A, B, C, and D, and that's it.
Yeah.
Looking at 3160,
Yeah, there's not a lot in there, and so the bylaws cover.
Fill in,
They
yeah.
fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
But if there's something that contradicts the code, that's when you go in and you say, hey, let's change the code. If it
Mhm.
really needs to get changed.
when I was just looking, the code is good in terms of it says we'll meet at least quarterly. It already says that in the code, so that's good. So we're not, there's no conflicts there, so that's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then if you're okay with it all, kind of retype it, fire it over to you, and you can add whatever you want, is that?
Oh, yeah, or you
Your
can,
notes?
if you wanna scan, if you can scan it, cause
Sure.
I got all my notes too.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough. I still want it to be a situation where you feel like it's all on you, right, to go back. and
yeah,
have to do
that's
this.
what that's part of my job. So anybody that took notes,
We
Yeah.
please
appreciate
send them
that.
over.
Yeah.
What?
We appreciate
Well,
that.
I'm glad you do, because I mean, that's what I'm here for, so. I'll get it all put up nice and pretty. I will probably send it to you, as a blind copy to each
Okay.
of you, so it's not so don't reply all, so it's not a quorum. And then after I get it done, and it's not gonna be this week, and it might not be next week,
No worries.
but then you read through it, feel free to make any additional changes, send it back. We'll do that, at least once before the next meeting, maybe twice.
Okay.
So that hopefully at the November meeting, we can come, it'll be in the packet and you'll go, that says everything I wanted to say.
Perfect.
And that way it would be able to go in front of council at either the second meeting of November or the first meeting in December. And so.
Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect, yeah.
Quick question, and maybe I missed this somewhere, but is there anything in, these bylaws that state like time and attendance expectations, like you must not miss,
Right.
more than 2 consecutive unexcused meetings?
It does say that,
Yeah.
well, it says that anybody can be vacancy and removal. So here's what it says.
Yeah.
Appointments by the mayor to fill vacancies shall be for the remainder of an unexpired term. We already know that.
Mhm.
A member may be recommended to city council for removal by majority vote of the members of this board. If the member is repeatedly absent from meetings without a prior excuse submitted to the chair or vice chair, or if the member has acted in a manner deemed contrary to Parks and Rec goals and or bylaws. Any member recommended to city council for removal from the Parks and Rec board can appeal the removal to the city council.
We should have done that years ago.
And
It's, as long as I've been here, it's never been done.
No, it hasn't, but it should have been.
Well, cause it's awkward to try to kick somebody off. I mean, you just feel bad doing
Yeah, but if
it.
they're never here, what's the difference?
Well, then I would just talk to them and say,
And that was the problem.
I would encourage them to resign. I would just talk to them.
Yeah.
like, whoever the chair is and say, sorry, you're not able to come. Would you mind resigning?
so maybe just as a suggestion, maybe.
Yeah.
Make for sake of consistency throughout the years, maybe, what is your line in the sand?
Well, that'll be my next question. What is it be?
Because then it's no question of
Right.
favoritism.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, we have to have this awkward, it's gotten this bad, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, hey, you've missed X amount,
Yeah.
let's have a discussion and, clear communication is kind communication and
Mhm.
it's not
I think so.
overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
My recommended would be 3 out of 12, 25%
Okay.
as unexcused. I mean, you guys are pretty much all good about letting me know when you're not gonna be here, obviously. Matt and Sherry both did 3 weeks ago, said, hey, we're not, I'm not gonna be at the meeting. But yes, if you have it clear in writing, then there's no question.
Okay. Do we need it? Is it normal to have anything for excused? Like if a person's excused, but they missed 6 out of 12? Does something like that need to be, I mean, has it ever been that bad? Like, if
Yes.
Somebody's like, I'm not gonna be here and they just keep saying I'm not gonna
It
be
has,
here.
not on this board, but it has
Okay.
been that bad where, yeah, there's been excused absences, but way too many in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's better to have it in writing, especially if you mentioned that in this board, there's been turnover in the past or changes. It's
Mhm.
better to have, because if we do have to act upon it, at least we're all aware of, we've seen the bylaws when we join the board, and it's just in writing where we don't have to second guess. Well, should we not, what should we vote on? It's just all there and it's where we
So
don't
should
have to.
we add
second
the
guess.
6 out of 12 if you're for excused absences, just for constantly not being able to make it?
But then you think, okay, what if somebody had major surgery?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think that's where you.
Only got
Just-
That's what you have Zoom for.
Yeah,
What circumstances, there's a word.
Yeah. Saying-
extenuating
Yeah,
circumstances.
Mhm.
When you have the Zoom option now,
Or or you do like
you attend from another country.
Extenuating.
we need to put anything in there, like each situation should be handled individually or separately, is that too sticky, depending on if it's like, say like say it was.
On a case-by-case
cancer,
basis?
Yeah, on a
Yeah.
case-by-case basis, or something like that. In case there is a major need.
Maybe.
So, okay, so what about if we put that, if they miss a quarter of the yearly meetings as unexcused,
More than 25%.
right, but what, but how do you get the extenuating circumstances in there if they're unexcused? I mean, they wouldn't be, so, or,
Right, because the unexcused is a key word.
yeah, so,
Is that described in the bylaws or in our code for unexcused absence?
I don't,
Sorry to open a can of worms.
No, you're okay.
But I mean.
I appreciate it.
No, we
That's what I
talked
wanna know.
about this a while ago when we were having a situation where somebody had been on the board for years and hadn't been here and.
yeah,
9 months.
So I mean,
Well,
even
more
if
than
you,
that.
if you were to think through the lens of extenuating circumstances,
they
it would
would,
require someone to miss more than 3 consecutive meetings unexcused.
Sure.
they should take a leave of
Then
absence.
then they should probably
Or
resign and
resign,
you know,
yep,
consider being appointed again, perhaps. What do you guys think?
yeah, that's,
I mean, the main purpose of some of that, this is when you read it, when you're on the board, it makes you more accountable, which is helpful. I mean, we wrote it once on something I was on where we said, if you find that your life experiences are gonna cause you to miss more than half the meetings or whatever you say, we would encourage you to consider resigning. You know, just letting you know, we need you there. If you can't be, then resign.
well, so we can put something like, extenuating circumstances can be addressed on a case-by-case basis. I mean, with with options that include a leave of absence, resigning from the board. That's kind of all your options,
Pretty much,
right
yeah.
there,
like,
three.
leave, Some of that, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Is there anything pending that as a board, we usually do or look at or anything when we're coming to an end of the year,
Not really.
the calendar year?
Mm-mm. No, trying to think, we used to kind of look at when, play equipment was starting to be replaced. But we have new stuff here, we took stuff out at Pacific Park. The Bryn Hill and Sunset Ridge have all new stuff, so that's really not
But everything has another at least 16 years.
yeah, we don't have that to even consider. That was usually the only thing that and it was just a, hey, you know, these things, we probably got another couple years out of them, or we got another 10 years out of them, or do we need to have someone look at them and make sure that they're still sturdy and meet safety compliances and stuff, and we don't have to do that anymore right now. We have a lot of new stuff, so.
Anything else, Dad, before we feel comfortable enough to table this and move on? Okay, perfect. All right, I guess on to board and staff comments. Mr. Weber.
Good.
Ms. Para,
Good.
okay? Ms. Burns,
I'm good.
Mr. King,
And also good.
okay, fair enough,
Wow.
was fast, all right.
Mhm.
Does our ex officio chair have any news or updates to share from city council?
Gosh, I think we, I think the biggest update to really share is we are in the process of the relook committee. And highly encourage everyone to come to that meeting, whether you're on the board or not. Election day is coming up quickly as well, mark your calendars. And Public Works Facility, and I don't want to steal Dustin's thunder here, is set to be complete and potential move in early November. Is that correct, Dustin?
Yes.
You stole my thunder.
I'm so sorry.
Chili cook-off is this Thursday, Patty.
That's right, yep.
It is.
Chili cook-off this
You
Thursday.
can hire a new city manager.
hired a new city manager.
He will be official on November 1st. They came to a contract agreement, I believe, today, which obviously then has to go through legal mumbo jumbo and stuff, and we had Rob available to us until the end of November, till right before Thanksgiving. He says, as much as I love you guys.
That's why I said, no.
And I can tell you for a fact, he has thoroughly enjoyed being here. We have made this as pleasurable as any city could for a guy in his position. I mean, he's been retired, he's taken 2 other interim city jobs and said he was done. And then Terry Sweet talked him in, and he has literally enjoyed every minute of it. He's a great guy to work with. He's still a mentor for city managers in the state. And he's also on the WCCLS board, and he's still really involved in a lot of stuff. I do think this will be his last interim, I'm pretty sure. But he was very pleased with the decisions that council made for the city manager, so. Yeah.
And he was joking about going to Walmart and being a greeter.
So funny.
He knows everybody in Cornelius anyway.
Yeah, that's right, might as well, he'll see all his constituents, so,
That's great. It's exciting.
yeah.
Well, my thunder was stolen, so I don't have anything else to say unless anybody has any specific questions for me right now or something that I can bring to the group next time.
Are you gonna have a party for the new building?
That's gonna be my question, I was gonna ask.
The plan right now is we gotta get furniture, we gotta get internet, we gotta get everything basically settled in there. And once we get everything settled, I'll work with Cindy Hurst on a ribbon cutting ceremony. And right now, it's probably going to be mid-November. So we're gonna be,
During May, when garage sale day was going on, we got a lot of furniture.
no, we're not gonna use card tables and stuff like that. I actually suggested that and they said no.
So does Dustin have a good office?
Oh, I got a corner office, promote.
Nice. Windows.
Yeah.
Well, I do have technically a window in my office right now, but it's shared with Robin's office, so it doesn't really go anywhere.
No. So the planning department will move down there, Steve and Rowan.
Oh, the police department.
And the police
is
will
actually
move
gonna
down
be
there.
moving down there for the time being. I know there was plans on, City Hall, Public Safety Building, but we don't know how long that's going to be. But the Public Works facility, it's gonna be our emergency operations center, and we've got, plenty of space out there, the secure facility. There's even like showers and stuff like that, and that place for the police, and so, chief, was instrumental in, hey, let's move in there. So it's actually becoming a usable space now, instead of just, originally it was gonna be me and, 4 crew members occupying a blank slate.
Yeah.
So now if we have a meeting, where will it be? Down there?
No, they'll still be here. There's.
Sure, right in there.
I don't mean this meeting, I mean, we have to,
Most likely, there's 2 conference rooms, in that new facility, and there's a conference room downstairs and there's a conference room upstairs. But right now, the conference room upstairs actually might be the combined, where the deputies, where the police is gonna have their room. So yes, we'll have a nice size conference room, at least downstairs from here.
Yeah, for like your garlic festival meetings, they would be there. Yeah,
So
they would
couldn't
be
we
there.
meet there? Cause we're like with you.
No.
I'll be still here.
Can we put
Bylaws
that
next
in
month.
bylaws?
Yes,
let's do before the
We'll meet just Hudson's,
Yeah.
None of it, there's not enough room.
Add kegerator in there too.
We've got we're supposed to get a nacho machine.
There you go.
We definitely.
See, then we need to meet there
I wish.
and at a bar and.
Right.
Other than that, I can't really think of anything other than the plans from 3J about landscaping for the perimeter around Jesse Mays. That should be ready by the next
next meeting, hopefully.
Perfect. All right, any other topics for next month? Anyone wants to discuss? Everyone outside of finishing up bylaws and what we've already worked on, is anybody else have anything else they wanna?
And then who's
Officially
gonna
added to the
be the
agenda?
first presenting to council?
Yeah, that'll be the discussion. Yeah, you'll
Yeah, yeah.
create your presentation and
Kind of like a,
you want a template for it or?
yeah, or
Sure.
just kind of if we can all bring up some points for
Mhm.
this whole year
Yeah,
to,
Yeah, this would be a good time to do the year wrap up.
yeah, a year wrap up.
perfect. Sounds big. Okay. Anything else?
No,
I'm saying.
All right, and it is almost eight. Well, once or twice, we're good. All right, let's do it. Okay, if there's nothing else, then our next meeting will be scheduled for Monday, November 11th.
Tuesday the 12th.
The 12th.
That-
My bad,
Yeah,
we're on the 12th. Okay,
that's Monday's the holiday, Veterans Day.
okay, I apologize. All right, my birthday, awesome. All right, well, this concludes our Parks and Rec meeting at 8 PM.
Thank you.